Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Legends of the Jedi. In our last two episodes, we were introduced to Ulic-Qel-Droma and Nomi Sunrider. These are two of the most important Jedi in this era of Star Wars history. This episode, we're going to explore the circumstances that bring Ulic and Nomi together. We'll be covering a 2-issue arc known as the Freedon Nadd Uprising. Before we delve into the story arc, let's cover a few preliminaries. The Freedon Nadd Uprising was published between August and September 1994. It was written by Tom Veitch, and the art was done by Tony Atkins and Dennis Rodier. The other important thing to note is that this story takes place in 3998 before the Battle of Yavin, so it's been approximately 2 years since we were first introduced to Nomi and Ulic at the turn of the millennium in 4000 BBY, so this is 3998 BBY. Okay, so with those preliminaries out of the way, let's activate our Jedi Holocron and delve into the opening scrawl of Issue 1. The period 4,000 years before the birth of Luke Skywalker marked a turning point in the history of the Galactic Republic. During that time, 2 young Jedi became respected throughout the galaxy for their heroic exploits in great battle with the dark side of the Force. Their names were Ulic-Qel-Droma and Nomi Sunrider. We take up an early chapter in their saga on the planet Onderon, a world long divided into warring tribes. Following the death of Queen Aminoa of Aziz, her daughter Gallia has ascended to the throne, sharing power with her husband, the Beast Lord Oron Kira. For a time, it seemed that Jedi Master Arca and his 3 Jedi apprentices, Ulic, his brother Kay, and Taut Danita, had succeeded in bringing peace to divided Onderon, but many Onderonians still worship the memory of Freedon Nadd, a dark Jedi who ruled the planet centuries earlier. Joining with mutinous officers of Onderon's royal military, the Naddists are staging violent protests inside the Great Walled City of Aziz. Queen Gallia's new government is already on the verge of collapse. The scene in Issue 1 opens onto the Great Walled City. Amidst the sound and smoke of civil unrest, a funeral procession transports the remains of Freedon Nadd and Queen Aminoa to the royal spaceport. Master Arca has ordered that the stone sarcophagi containing these remains be removed from the planet to one of the 4 moons orbiting Onderon. As we learned in Episode 6 of the podcast, Master Arca Jeth was appointed as a Jedi Watchman of Onderon. Even though he ended the long-standing conflict between the Beast Riders and the Monarchy, he is now faced with a Naddist uprising spreading across the city, and because of it, he needs to call in reinforcements. One of the reinforcements called in is Os Wylam, the Jedi Knight trained by Master Thon. So you may remember from last episode that Taut Danita shows up on Master Thon's planet of Ambria to recruit Os Wylam to the cause. As he approaches Master Arca, Wylam tells him that it's a great honor to serve him, and then he remarks that Master Arca looks unwell. Arca responds, "The dark side of the Force. The city is still permeated with it. It's affecting all of us." In spite of the greatest efforts of the Jedi, the dark side has never been completely driven from the galaxy. Master Arca mentions how the dark side seems curiously powerful in this world. Freedon Nadd still has a following among the populace, and it's believed that some of his adherents are dark side magicians. This is not very surprising if you consider that Freedon Nadd was a student of the ancient Sith Lords who learned to focus dark side energies through their temples and their amulets. We learn that a tomb has been prepared on Duxon, one of the moons of Onderon. Now, I don't know about you, but if it were me, I'd be burning these coffins to the ground, not moving them to another location. You have a dark side issue, destroy the dark side artifacts. Simple. Anyway, Master Arca seems to think that by removing these relics, they can get to the bottom of whatever or whoever is poisoning the atmosphere. Then, without warning, a mighty war machine erupts through the surface of the spaceport. We're told it's being operated by dissident members of the Royal Armed Forces who swore allegiance to the power of Freedon Nadd. And as we've been calling them, and for simplicity's sake, we're going to refer to these guys as Naddists going forward. Their leader is named Warb Null. He's an armored warrior who combines martial prowess with the dark side. And I want to take a moment to admire his armor. It's featured on the cover of the issue, drawn by none other than Dave Dorman, so you should check it out. The armor looks like something out of a heavy metal album. It's spiky and obsidian in color. Looks completely badass. As Warb Null departs from the machine, he ignites a lightsaber and he says to his forces, "Take the Queen, I'll deal with the intruders." The Naddists begin to lay waste to Queen Gallia's troops. The Jedi Knights form a protective line of defense around Master Arca. Arca jerks back and begins to faint before being caught by Ulic and Taut. They lower him to the ground. We're told that he's been struck by an invisible blow from the power of the dark side. Meanwhile, Kay and Osweiler engage the Naddist leader in a lightsaber duel. It's clear from the way he's drawn that Warb Null is huge. He towers over the two Jedi. After a short time, they begin to feel the full power of his crushing blows. Wylam tells Kay that he can't think, everything is getting dark. Kay begs for his companion to hold on to the light. In another part of the spaceport-turned-battlefield, Oron Kira is protecting the Queen from the Naddist forces with the aid of his beast riders. But the real objective of the assault is neither the Queen nor Master Arca. It's the sarcophagi of Queen Aminoa, so the deceased Queen, and Freedon Nadd. With the royal forces distracted and scattered, it's easy for the Naddists to take both coffins and load them onto the war machine that they brought. At that point, still locked in a furious lightsaber battle with our Jedi heroes, Warb Null tells his forces, "All right, men, we've got what we came for. Pull back." In no time at all, the war machine descends back into the ground, and Arca, who is still down for the count, tries to sit up. He talks to his students. "Did you feel it? The darkness has amazing strength. Something terrible is at work. It is as I feared. Freedon Nadd and Queen Aminoa may be dead, but the Sith magic is very much alive." At this point, Queen Gallia tells everyone gathered that her father may be able to assist. It's revealed that he's been confined to a life support facility for many years. More than Queen Aminoa, he understands the dark side. Master Arca gets a little suspicious. He stands up and he tells Gallia that he must see the king. Arca and Ulic accompany Gallia to a secret nursing facility underground, where King Ommin is hooked up to a life support machine. He's very decrepit and old-looking. Think Tales of the Crypt Keeper. After some brief introductions, Arca cuts to the chase. He tells Ommin that he wants the sarcophagus of Freedon Nadd. Ommin beckons him forward. "Bend closer, Jedi. Ommin will tell you a secret. My mind dwells in a great void. The darkness has been with us for centuries. My father, his father." "I know that," Arca responds. "But do you know the Great One is with us even yet?" Suddenly, the air sizzles with blue fire as a spirit form takes shape behind the dying king. The spirit form is wearing this helmet that is very reminiscent of a Shogun helmet. Trust me on this. Go Google search images of Freedon Nadd and you'll see what I mean. And of course the spirit is none other than Freedon Nadd. Ulic draws out his lightsaber and says, "But he's been dead for 400 years. The Force Ghost of Nadd speaks, and this is what he said. "Yes, my mummified flesh sleeps on stone, but the old man called my spirit back from chaos. I have given him knowledge. Fear me not, Jedi. I am powerless in this present state." Faced with the ghost of Nadd himself, Arca finally understands why the dark side has lingered on the planet. Even though Queen Aminoa died, it appears King Ommin continued to practice Sith magic. When he voices this to Ommin, the old man says, "Exactly that, Jedi," and grabs Arca by the throat. In spite of his need for life support machinery, Ommin is filled with dark power. "Believe me, Jedi, the Sith way will live forever." With a blast of dark side energy, he casts Arca away. When Ulic rushes to his aid, he realizes that his master is smothered in dark side energy. As if on cue, Warb Null and the Naddists appear. So here we have a panel, and imagine in your minds with me. Warb is in the background with his lightsaber drawn, a bunch of cultists with blasters ready to fire, a Force Ghost, and in front of them all is King Ommin. He extends a hand to his daughter and asks for her to come to him. He tells her that he needs her for his work. Gallia stumbles backwards, and Ulic jumps in front of her. He activates his lightsaber and begins to carve his way through the Naddists towards Warb Null. His struggle becomes even more desperate when he sees that his master is being taken away by King Ommin. Off to the side, the ghost of Freedon Nadd observes Ulic's fight with a smile. "Yes, fight well, young Jedi. A great destiny awaits you." The spirit disappears and Ommin leaves with Arca. Ulic is determined to bring the armored Darksider down and rescue his master. He calls on the Force and he redoubles his efforts. Warb Null presses a dark side energy force against the Jedi, but Ulic manages to push past it. Then, with one magnificent blow of his lightsaber, Ulic slices the warrior in two and ends the brief career of Warb Null. I'm really sad to see him go. This guy's armor was way too amazing to only stick around for half an issue. Ulic grabs his head and he tells Queen Gallia that he feels a kind of dark side vertigo. He asks if she saw which way Ommin went, but she tells him that she's not sure. Ulic says, "Let's get the others. We're going to need their help. Lots of help." As they emerge from the nursing facility, Ulic and Gallia quickly learn that the royal palace has been captured by the Naddists. His Jedi companions, along with Oron Kira, quickly intercept them and lead them through the streets of Aziz. Ulic explains to the others what happened to Arca, and he blames himself for letting their master down. Gallia jumps to his support, and she tells the others that Ulic did everything that he could to save their master. Osweilim tells the group that Tot Danita is transporting warriors to Modon Kira's citadel. If you remember a couple episodes ago, Modon Kira is Oron's father. He's one of the leading Beast Lords. So the Jedi's plan is basically to regroup at Modon Kira's citadel, and then find a way to liberate Arca. Ulic expresses doubt at this plan. He tells the others that the dark side is too strong. They're going to need more Jedi Knights and the forces of the Republic backing them up. Flash to another part of the galaxy, and we're introduced to the planet Ossus. This is the third planet of the Adegan system. Ossus has been an important Jedi stronghold since ancient times, and it now houses a thriving center of Jedi learning. Ossus was first mentioned in episode 5 of the podcast. It was the world where Odan-Ur was trained by Master Uru 1,000 years before the events of this episode. We learn that the great Jedi Master Thawne has brought his apprentice Nomi to Ossus in order to further her training. Holding Vima to her chest, Nomi looks around and takes in the beautiful planet. "It's peaceful here. The Force permeates everything." Thawne, speaking in his guttural language, tells Nomi that he wants to introduce her to Master Vodo. He brings her to a workshop where we see a red alien creature with a hard exterior carapace instructing a human man on how to build a lightsaber. The red alien is none other than Master Vodo Siosk-Baas. He has big large eyes and the snout-like appendage on his face with little tendrils at the end. You should really check out pictures of him online because my descriptions won't do him any justice. So the Jedi student with him is named Dace Diath. Master Vodo notices the newcomers and he turns to greet them.
"Oh, hello, Thawne. Have you brought my new student?"
Thawne introduces Nomi and her daughter Vima. He tells Vodo that Nomi is now ready to learn how to build her own lightsaber. Vodo remarks that he senses both Nomi and her daughter have the potential to become great Jedi. While Thawne takes Vima to play, Vodo wastes no time instructing Nomi on how to build a lightsaber. She is introduced to another Jedi apprentice, a Miralukan woman named Shoaneb Culu from the planet Alpheridies. Okay, so a bit of background on Miralukans. They look exactly like humans, except for one big difference. They do not have any eyes. They retain vestigial eye sockets, but that's about it. They are a very rare example in Star Wars of a species that is entirely Force sensitive. And this is how they see, quote-unquote. They use the Force. Miralukans do their best to blend in with humans by covering up the area where their eyes should be. They use headdresses, sometimes blindfolds, or other fashionable affectations. One of the main characters in Knights of the Old Republic 2 is a Miralukan, so we'll see them throughout this era. And the last point I want to make is that it's not uncommon for members of the species to become Jedi due to their natural affinity to the Force. Okay, back to our story. Shoaneb breaks the crystal she's working on. Master Vodo tells her not to worry because it was a flawed specimen. Nomi pulls out a box and offers one of her own crystals. Vodo marvels at these crystals. He calls them Pontites and informs us that they're the rarest kind of lightsaber crystal. If you remember from last episode, these are the crystals that Nomi got from her late husband Ander. Over the next week, Nomi works on her lightsaber under the tutelage of Master Vodo. Even though Nomi's initially rejecting the notion of using a lightsaber as we saw last episode, she now understands that it's not only a weapon of war, but also a way in which the Jedi contacts and maintains their contact with the Force. As she touches its activator, a powerful beam of light springs forth from her new lightsaber for the first time. She takes some satisfaction in knowing that this saber is powered by one of the crystals that Ander had sacrificed himself to protect. A few more weeks pass and Nomi advances rapidly in the Jedi way. One day, an assembly of Jedi is called. 5 Jedi are chosen to go to Onderon and help with the rescue mission to retrieve Master Arca from the clutches of a Sith sorcerer. The Jedi chosen are number 1, Dace Diath, number 2, Shoaneb Culu, number 3, a male Nazzar named Qrrrl, number 4, a male Gotal named Kith Kark, and number 5, surprise, Nomi Sunrider. Master Thawne congratulates Nomi on being chosen for the assignment, and he assures her that Vima will be quite safe among the Jedi on Ossus. A short time later, Nomi and her new Jedi companions depart for their journey across the galaxy to Onderon, in order to take up arms against the Darksiders. So before we go on to the last part of this issue, let's touch on the 2 alien races I just mentioned, Nazzar and Gotal. Nazzar are humanoid aliens with an equine or horse-like features and powerfully built bodies. Gotals are also humanoid and look like a cross between a man and a goat. I think you actually even see one in episode 4 in the Mos Eisley Cantina scene. So with those mental images in mind, let's venture forward. We're brought to Republic City, the galactic capital of Coruscant. In the Defense Minister's chambers, a committee of senators is debating Ulic Qel-Droma's call for assistance. And much like most senators in Star Wars, they're utterly useless.
Quelling civil unrest is one thing, going up against the dark side is quite another. This is a matter for the Jedi themselves to resolve.
As the Senate debate rages on, we're introduced to a human man and woman. Their names are Satal Keto and his cousin Aleema. They're headed towards the Galactic Museum, where a guidebook tells them that the Republic has preserved many Sith artifacts. Again, burn them! Don't preserve them! Preserving these evil artifacts leads to nothing but trouble. And you're about to see why. As a way of amusing themselves, these young aristocrats have been dabbling in dark magic. They even went so far as to form a secret society with their friends called the Krath, named after an evil magician god from a fairy tale that they were told as children. This is what happens when you have too much money and too much time on your hands. The Great Galactic Museum is a repository of precious objects from thousands of forgotten cultures, including those that worship the dark side. Outlawed for their evil practices, the Sith civilization vanished long ago into obscurity. This also marked the disappearance of their dark lords. Aleema, looking at the statue, says,
"Amazing. It says Jedi Knights who turned to the dark side became rulers of the Sith. They began a lineage passing the throne from one generation to the next."
As Satal and Aleema continue to explore the Sith exhibit, quote-unquote, they come across a display of amulets and talismans, still potent with the dark side. They both feel the power emanating from these objects, and they are overcome by an urge to possess something created by the Sith. Moments later, Satal swipes a Sith book and they promptly leave the museum. Back home, they open the book, but it appears to be unreadable. Even so, they discern that it's a collection of magical formulas. It's in a language that neither of them have ever seen before. Aleema draws his attention away to a live report indicating that the Senate has agreed to dispatch a fleet to quell the unrest on Onderon. Okay, so I guess the Senate isn't completely useless after all. The reporter explains that Onderon used to be ruled by Freedon Nadd, a follower of the outlawed Sith, and that it is believed that practitioners of Sith magic are still active in Onderon's capital. Satal turns to his cousin with excitement, and this is what he says.
"That's it, Aleema. We'll go to Onderon. That's where we'll unlock the secrets of this book."
Excited by the prospect of bringing real magic secrets home to their friends, these reckless young aristocrats set out at once for Onderon in their royal space yacht. The yacht even has a name. It's called the Krath Enchanter. Coming out of hyperspace, they deftly elude the Republic fleet, which is already taking up strategic positions in low orbit around the planet.
"Hold tight, cousin. I'm not letting the Republic get to those Sith magicians before we do."
And thus the issue ends. Okay, we're going right into it. Issue 2 is titled Initiates of the Sith. It begins in the skies of Onderon. Republic rocket jumper commandos are spilling out of the skies over Aziz. Aleema and Satal go whizzing by in their ship, which has been hit by turbolaser fire. Taking a couple more hits along the way, Satal begins to regret coming to Onderon in the first place. Yeah, buddy, maybe you shouldn't have flown right into a war zone. It looks like the Krath Enchanter is about to crash into the city. Aleema tells him to feel the dark power all around them. She has faith that they will not die in this crash. After a few more moments, their ship unceremoniously impacts the streets below and begins to skid across the ancient cobblestones. As fuel tanks rupture and explode, Aleema and Satal escape the yacht and run into the streets of war-torn Aziz. At this point, we learn some very important information about these two young aristocrats. They are apparently the heirs to the throne of the Empress Tita system. If you remember, Empress Tita ruled over the Qrrrl system 1,000 years before the events of this issue. After the Unification Wars, the system was renamed in her honor. So you're telling me that these two punks are descendants of the Empress? Damn, that's depressing. I think she's spinning in her sarcophagus right now. While Republic forces are securing Aziz, the Jedi relief team from Ossus narrows in on Ulic Qel-Droma's radio beacon. Modon Kira's fortress is under siege from the Naddists. Using the Force as a war shield and battle techniques perfected over many centuries, the audacious Jedi reinforcements charge straight into the ranks of their more numerous adversaries. Kith Kark, Qrrl, and Dace Diath wield their lightsabers with fearless effectiveness. Even Nomi, who has only been a Jedi for a few short months, is already adept in the battle skills she learned at Ossus. We see her deflecting blaster bolts with an outstretched palm and waving her lightsaber around like it's nobody's business. The Miralukan Jedi Shoaneb Culu appears to have uncanny talent for wielding her lightsaber as well, which just goes to show you that a Jedi doesn't really need eyes to be effective. Nomi tries to draw on her Jedi battle meditation, but she quickly discovers that an energy field is blocking it. At the same time, Dace Diath comes face to face with an ancient Sith war droid. As he slashes it in two, he tells the others that he can feel the dark side energy rolling off of it. Qrrrl, who we learn is a prince of the Nazzar, can feel the invisible malevolence concentrated against the Jedi. As if on cue, and before anyone can do anything, Kith Kark's force shield vanishes and he's struck by a cannon bolt. With his last words, he calls out to his master for help and then passes into the Force. Wow, this poor team of Jedi just landed and they're already down a man. At that moment, the gates of the Citadel are flung open. Ulic, Kay, Tot, and Osweiler are followed out by Modon Kira's men to help the Jedi reinforcements. Dace Diath, who wins the contest for the coolest haircut in the galaxy, I might add, asks Ulic why they didn't help sooner. Ulic tells him,
"The dark side, it's eating at our life force. Sith magic is at work, but for some reason, I'm feeling a whole lot stronger now that my fellow Jedi are here."
We learn that Ulic and the others have been holed up for months waiting for reinforcements, which makes sense if you think about the amount of time that passed after Tot collects Osweiler, brings him to Onderon, and then Nomi leaves Ambria to train on Ossus. During all this time, Ommin's oppressive Sith magic has infected the will of Arcus Jedi, but now the balance is finally shifting back in their favor. As the battle rages, Nomi finds herself under focus attack from the very presence that has crippled the spirits of Ulic and the others. With her grown sensitivity to the inner workings of the Force, it is almost more than she can handle. Something evil is watching her and pressing its dark intentions against her. In a battle of wills, Nomi tells the dark entity, "I see you. I know what you are." But it proves to be too much for her. The dark adversary strikes with a serpent's swiftness, and Nomi is thrown back by a psychic blast. Affected by the sight of this beautiful Jedi woman, felled in battle, Ulic moves to her side.
"I see no wounds. What hit you?"
I'm all right. Someone very powerful lunged at me through the Force when I tried to meditate. I saw him, an emaciated man on a metal armature."
"That'll be King Ommin. But now that you're here, we have the strength to strike together at the source of this evil."
As this is going on, we flash back to Satal and Aleema, who are showing the Sith book around various cafes in Aziz. This is such a billionaire thing to do. Like, there's a literal war going on in the streets, and they're just gallivanting around town asking random people if they can help translate this book. Totally oblivious to all of this. Anyway, they finally find someone who tells them that his master can help unlock the secrets of the strange book. He marvels at the great risk that these two are taking in coming to Onderon at a time like this. Satal and Aleema tell them that they had to come as they feel they are on the verge of great discoveries. So these two are brought into the sublevels of the city and introduced to none other than King Ommin himself. Sitting on his throne, still hooked up to life support I might add, he says,
"They say you have found Sith treasures. What gifts have you brought me?"
Satal shows him the book and tells the king that they need help translating it. But first he wants to know why they should trust the king. Ommin holds out a decrepit hand and begins to work some dark magic on Satal.
"Trust me. I sense a capacity for great knowledge in you. Here, let me show you my wonderful amulets. They were left to me by my ancient forebear, Freedon Nadd."
Satal, influenced by the dark forces, tells Aleema that he suddenly feels ill. Ignoring this, Ommin continues,
"Look, my young friend. These baubles were created by the ancient Sith to concentrate the power of the dark side."
He urges Satal to put one on. Sensing his reluctance, Aleema spurs him on even further, telling him that this is why they came to Onderon in the first place. After Satal puts the amulet on his neck, he opens the book and, by the Empress, he can read it perfectly. Ommin tells him that he will give him the talisman, but would like to make a copy of the book. Satal hands it over willingly, and Ommin passes it off to a scribe named Minovar to make a copy. While they wait, Ommin shows the two aristocrats his most prized possession, a Jedi Master. Arca is naked and bound on the wall with some kind of dark force field surrounding him. We learn that he's still alive, but suffering mightily under the crushing power of the dark side. Ommin's goal is to extinguish Arca's light and raise him up as a dark Jedi. Arca starts to mumble. Ommin leans in and asks,
"What is it, Arca, my friend? Are you ready so soon to join the dark side?"
Arca says in a low whisper,
Listen, do you hear it? My Jedi Knights are with us.
At that moment, in the courtyard outside Ommin's subterranean lair, 7 brave Jedi take on 100 darkside cultists. Driven by a clear perception of their master's pain, Kay and Ulic lead the charge through a phalanx of darkside protectors and war droids. As Ulic is telling his brother to hold to the light, one of these droids gets the drop on Kay and slices off his metal arm. Man, poor Kay cannot catch a break. This is the second time he's lost that arm. Retrieving his lightsaber with his good arm, Kay cleaves the Sith war droid in 2. The other Jedi make quick work of the remaining cultists and troops. Standing back to back, holding their lightsabers out in front of them, Nomi tells Osweiler that it's not over yet because Ommin still remains. At that point, Ommin appears from the doorway.
Yes, reckless Jedi, submit to my power. What have you done with Master Arca?
Ulic says.
Arca is beyond saving. He has been humbled by the might of the ancient Sith, and so shall you.
Drawing on the dark side of the Force, King Ommin concentrates infinite hatred against the young Jedi. Unlimited hatred, as one might say. With the light side as his ally, Ulic smashes through the deluge of dark side energies.
It's time to put an end to you.
Ulic's lightsaber finds its mark. The iron armature that supports King Ommin's bones collapses. Without his metal exoskeleton, Ommin falls to the floor like an Arcanian jellyfish. He calls on Freedon Nadd to protect him.
I'll ask again, where is Master Arca? Ulic says. Gone to the dark side, as will you, my fine Jedi.
At this point, a terrified Aleema and Satal use the distraction to retreat deeper into the subterranean chambers. Satal tells Aleema that he's not leaving without their Sith book. When they come across the dead scribe, they're visited by an unexpected sight. The ghost of Freedon Nadd appears before them.
Satal and Aleema, I am Nadd. You may keep the book and the talisman. Both rightfully belong to you, as do these swords of the Sith. King Ommin will no longer need them.
Nadd hands them 2 ornate swords with serpent-mouthed hilts. He then tells them that they are the future of his work. He directs them to a passage that will take them to the surface. With a flash of blue fire, Nadd appears before Ommin and tells him to stop working his spells.
Let these young Jedi go. It is your time to die, Ommin.
Never, never. They all belong to the dark side.
I'm sorry, Ommin. They do not belong to the dark side, but you do.
Nadd's spectral hand covers Ommin's face. Then he turns back to the Jedi present and lays down some foreshadowing.
Well, maybe 1 or 2 of you belong to the dark side.
At that point, Arca hobbles forward, very much alive, and congratulates the Jedi for triumphing over the dark side. He turns to Nadd.
Now all that remains is to deal with this rogue spirit.
You delude yourself, old man. The Jedi have not won today, as you will one day learn. The Jedi have lost.
And with that, Nadd disappears. The only thing that's missing from this scene is a cackle. With Ommin dead and his forces dispersed, the Republic is able to quickly restore order to Onderon. Aziz is placed under martial law, and the off-worlders are evacuated to their home planets. Concealed amongst these departing travelers are Satal Keto and his cousin Aleema. They make their way back to the Empress Teta system with their precious Sith treasures in their baggage. So much for spaceport security baggage checks, am I right? Under the direction of Master Arca, the Jedi begin their work of removing the dark side influences from Onderon. The sarcophagi of Freedon Nadd and Queen Aminoa are retrieved and eventually brought to Duxun, which is one of the moons of Onderon. There, a great tomb was built to withstand the ravages of time. The royal remains will be held secure until they finally return to dust in this great tomb. Okay, time out. Seriously, Jedi, destroy the coffin. I am no expert, but I would venture a guess that if you destroyed the Dark Jedi's bones, maybe his apparition would go away for good. You know, whatever, do it your way. So the entombing ceremony goes off without any further interruptions. After the funeral, Ulic asks Arca what the ghost meant when he said the Jedi have lost. Arca tells Ulic and Nomi about an ancient Sith prophecy that the Dark Lords will come again. He tells them that the future depends on them and that the Jedi must cling to the light.
Remember, Ulic, where there is light, there can be no darkness.
Okay, so, there you have it. The Freedon Nadd Uprising was put down. Our heroes are victorious once again, but the victory comes with dark tidings. Will the Sith prophecies come true? Only time will tell in Tales of the Jedi yet to be told. Join me next time as we jump forward a year and delve into a new story arc entitled Dark Lords of the Sith. And may the Force be with you,
always